Okay, how are you everybody? And thank you, Dr. Wissam, for inviting me to share you and to participate in this great opportunity to be close with your team and ambassadors everywhere and global. My voice is clear and my screen is presented already?
Yes,
okay.
We can hear you.
Okay.
And the screen is shared.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm Dr. Ahmed Hilles. I have a PhD in environmental science and a postdoc research in Ghent University in Belgium, and I'm a lecturer in master program in Al-Azhar University in Palestine, and I am the head of the National Institute for Environment and Development. We contracted with so many international and local organizations working in the environmental aspects and projects, and we did a lot of interventions in order to enhance the life or the environmental, let me say, status here in Palestine. And I hope for the coming few minutes will be useful, and we could clarify many of, let me say, items related to how we can reflect what Dr. Wissam said before in the recent session. I followed most of it. Is very, very comprehensive and informative regarding the peace and the SDGs and the international, let me say, and local sustainable development practices and works and projects. How to translate, how to reflect that topics, that understanding of that, let me say, issues discussed in this session, how to reflect it practically, how to implement it as works to enhance the life of the people that we live with, and to develop, let me say, the global vision toward the environment according to the international standards and according to the sustainable development goals of the coming years. I'm going to be very concentrated because the time that I have given is not enough to discuss all elements related to the proposal writing and fundraising, which the main, let me say, way that developed during the recent decades to make a link between the developed countries who are responsible to change the life of the people and who are the main reason toward the changing of the climate, toward the threatening the global, let me say, life because of their activities, the severe industrialized interventions that they did and they do already currently, and they will do already in the coming future. How to make these links between the developed countries and the poorest countries, and the developing countries who will be or already affected directly and severely by the results and the impacts of that, let me say, global interactions or activities did by the developed countries. The link between all of them, international organizations developed and local CBOs, community-based organizations, and NGOs, according to the local aspects of every country, and the proposals writing between all of them. How we can reflect our problems in our country, how we can make, let me say, a clear photograph about what we need, and how we can implement the mitigation measures that we are looking for according to the international and local goals. There is many of details related to this aspect, but we have to start to make a flash. And if the country, even if it very developing countries or poor countries, if they can write well to talk with the international community, and they can after that they can deliver the projects for their people. And this is, I think, the main important tools that we have to weapon up, that we have to gain to make it, let me say, clear for our people, our organizations, and how to translate, as I said, the problems that we live in as projects. And all of these activities will be, again, as a snowball by the time we can imagine the enhancement of the life on the earth, especially in the developing countries. The proposal writing is very, very, let me say, important step that we have to do at the first to implement the projects in our country. And I mean here the developing countries. And we are looking for, and as I was a member, steering committee members for many of international and local organizations related to receiving the proposals submitted by the local organizations. They want to do their work, they want to gain the funds from the international organizations, and I saw many of proposals have many of the problems which finally, let me say, resulted to ignore or to neglect their participation because of some of problems. I here would like to highlight or to concentrate on the main important aspects and details should be taken into consideration while we are working on writing proposals for so many international organizations want to give us as assistance, want to give us the help, but they don't find the real, or let me say, the suitable way to contact with us. And we are not able, and many times we are not able to show them that we are fit, that we are suitable to implement these projects in our countries. And as you know, the international, or let me say the global status now, many of countries need help, many of countries have their own problems, man-made problems resulted from wars and conflicts and crises like Arabian countries and so many other countries, and also the countries facing natural and climatic catastrophes or disasters, and they want again as recovering for their disasters or their tragic problems to solve it. But just we would like now or during this session to highlight or to clarify the ways that we have to use to write a suitable, a concentrated, a clear and a good proposal to find or to deliver the projects in our country, and to translate what Dr. Wissam said, as I said in his session, how to meet the international SDGs and sustainable development goals, and to be relevant also to the local as national plans or strategic plans, and to make the work integrated globally to enhance the life of the people. Three big pillars have to be, let me say, taken into account while we are writing the proposals, and I concentrate on it all the time. The first one, the content of your proposal, and the second one, the language of your proposal, and the third one, the design. The content of your proposal is very difficult to be built up well according to your need, matching of your goals and objectives in your country, solving of your problems, how it will be relevant to the international visions and missions, and how the content of your proposal matching of your scope of work and your experience, and what is your staff consists of, who's involved in your work, in coming work, the experience, and what is your, let me say, recent works, the CV of your organization. The content of your proposal consists of so many elements which will be used in evaluation of your proposals. And some of that is very important more than others and could be fatal in so many times, can be destroyed or can destroy your work because of some missed issues. You didn't take it well in your consideration, and you didn't put them in suitable way. The language. So many times that we find good, let me say, good problems that be solved in your proposal, and we found your staff is very fit, very suitable to solve this problem, and your, let me say, participation in the solving of this problem is very, very acceptable, and we need of this, let me say, intervention, but the language that used in your proposal has very complicated, let me say, problems. The language not clear enough, confused us, make the proposal can be understood by more than one way. So we are at this time preferred to ignore your work. If we have so many proposals we received from many countries or many organizations, we will prefer the best one. The best one. The competition will use in these items to let me say as options for all of us to start to use or to select the best one. And the third one is the design, and this one is very important because many of international organizations let the people write their proposals according to their point of view, and others want them to apply or to submit their proposals according to applications, specific applications that they built up to make it facilitated or easy to be evaluated according to their systems or approach. So you have to be very accurate in this point, how to design your proposal. The proposal writer should consider the using of modern and attractive design and presentation of the information and data included in the proposal by involving all important descriptive figures, tables, curves, photos, and let me say the diagrams that use in your proposal. The subject of this session, as I said, the proposal writing, but the proposal doesn't stand alone. It must be part of a process of planning and a research that you have to be implemented before. Many of proposals built up on something not accurate enough for all of us to judge or to evaluate this proposal. But if these organization or not-profit team built up their proposals according to the recent studies or researches, even they did or some others did, but accurate or professionally well designed, and the results accurate and authenticated, and so we can use that results as benchmark or starting or baseline for our work. So your proposal, depending on that results, it will be very, very strong added value for your writing of your proposal. It must be part of a process of planning and of research on outreach to and cultivation of potential foundation and cooperate donors. This process is grounded in the convictions that partnership should develop between the governmental or non-profit organization and the donor. When you spend a great deal of your time seeking money, it is hard to remember that it can also be difficult to give money away. And this is your mission as ambassadors everywhere in the global, and every one of you can build up their team from this point, their organization or his organization, to start working with international organizations to build up their country, to enhance the life of the people in his country. In fact, the dollars contributed by a donating or the donors agency or a cooperation have no value until they are attached to solid programs in the developing countries, which I means the money will be as account in banks, but it will gain its values directly after translated it as projects especially in the developing countries. Some of the government agencies in the developing countries and a number of non-profit organizations have the ideas and the capacity to solve problems, but no dollars with which to implement them. The foundations and corporations have the financial resources, but not the other resources needed to create the programs locally in every country. The local governments, or let me say the local non-governmental organizations, or even the governmental organizations have the capacity to implement the projects, but they don't have the money. And the international organizations have the money, but they don't have the resources in every country to implement their goals or to achieve their goals by interventions. Bring the two together effectively, efficiently, sustainably, and the result is a dynamic collaboration which will keep every developing countries progressively developed by the time and solving their problems according to what mentioned in the first session with Dr. Wissam as results of uneco-friendly activities that implemented in all the time and everywhere. You need to follow a step-by-step process in the search for private money. It takes time and persistence to succeed. After you have written a proposal, it could take as long as a year to obtain the funds needed to carry it out, and even a perfectly written proposal submitted to the right prospect might be rejected for any number of reasons, which we are going to highlight it in this session, and I hope the time will be enough for me. Raising funds as an investment in the future. Your aim should be to build a network of foundation and cooperate funders in all over the world, many of which give small gifts on a fairly steady basis. It's very easy for you to gain, and a few of which give a large periodic grants, which is considered for you and your point of view as a strategic donations for your organization. By vividly pursuing the various steps of the process, each year you can retain most of your regular supporters and strike a balance with the coming and goings of larger donors, and even your experience will be developed all the time, and your staff experience, networks, friends and all over the world will be built up. We have an organization in the Gazrib, and I head of these organizations. We implemented so many projects every year, but our experience developed every time, every moment, every day. Every day we enhance our experience toward the work, the goals, the objective, the implementation approaches that we use, and the practical, let me say, work on the ground. And in addition to that, the friendship with local and international parties or sides we build up all the time. And this is what I want from all of you. The recommended process is not a formula to be rigidly adhered to. It is a suggested approach that can be adopted to fit the needs of any governmental or non-profit organizations and let me say of each situation. And fundraising is an art as well as a science. You must bring your own creativity to it and remain flexible. It's arts. It's ours. And I said, just as I said all the time, it is like a fishing bait. If you build up it well, the fisherman, the successful and the professional fisherman or fishing man use a shrimp, which is very cost, but a small piece of a shrimp can, let me say, bait or a large fish. And this is the meaning of well designed and accurate and professional written proposal, which can gain or which can deliver many of developmental projects in your country by writing it well according to your needs and to surveys that you used or the studies that implemented in your country and according to the networks that you build up in your area of living and within your population. Gathering background information, the first thing you will need to do in writing the master proposal is to gather the documentation for it. You will require background documentation in 3 areas: concept, program, and expenses. And how much you are developing in this point, how much you will build up relationship with the international organizations, and how much that you will gain or we will obtain the donations to your country. If all of these information is not readily available to you, determine how will help you, who will help you gather each type of information, and which we have to consultate or to communicate with to answer these questions or to deliver us with this information from your local and international, local community, organizations, private sector, civil society, international who working in your country, in addition to the governmental. If they work with children, so you have to contact the schools. If you work or you would like to work in the hospital or the health status in your country according to the, let me say, the SDGs and peace and the relevant items, you have to contact the Ministry of Health in your country and the other organizations working in this sector. And then you will build up your proposal according to the strong base, clear and integrated with others, and we can discuss it later on in this session in details. If you are in a large agency, there should be program and financial support staff who can help you. But the beginning, as individuals looking for building up their own organizations, you have to start. You don't need to be strong and big enough in the beginning. Every international organizations, the biggest international organizations start by persons and individuals. But by the time or within the time, the development continuous and the enhancement of their work networks, writing experiences become more and more. Then we have now international organizations involving or consist of thousands of people and hundreds of offices in all over the world. Once you know with whom to talk, identify the questions to ask. If you are part of a small non-profit with no staff, a knowledgeable board member will be the logical choice, and you can ask every experts and organizations in your country. And as I know, in so many countries, the local laws of the governments give the people the opportunity to find their needs as knowledge and experience without any limitations or constraints. And this is a good opportunity for all of us to build up our proposals according to the actual or the real facts and problems on the ground, which is very missed in in so many proposals that we receive all the time. They build up according to their point of view which is not logic or which is not, let me say, accurate in many times. This data gathering process makes the actual writing much easier, and by involving other stakeholders in the process, it also helps key people within your agency seriously consider the project's value to the organizations. And all of the international organizations like the networking of your country. If your proposal depending or relying on the point of view or needs of so many organizations and diverse or different organizations such as international, governmental, non-governmental, and CBOs, community-based organizations, in addition to the private sector, who's working to enhance the economy, as we talk about the sustainable development, so we can involve the private sector in our works, enhance our work by consulting the governmental to keep our work safe, to keep our work running and working on the ground by preserving from everybody involved in our, let me say, area. The concept. It is important that you have a good sense of how the project fits into the philosophy and mission of your agency. It's a very big problem that we face all the time. The projects or the proposal submitted is not, let me say, matching or is not fit with the scope of work of the organization. So their experience is not, let me say, relevant to the project that they submitted for or wanted to implement, which is make for all of us a confusion and a big problem how they can apply their goals or achieve their goals and objectives within this intervention by this proposal, which away from their scope of work. Their experience is distant from this work. So you have to be, let me say, you have to have the sense and you have to be logic according to your experience, according to your list of recent implemented works that you have implemented, the recent the CVs of your, or the profile of your organizations. You have to build up your work, which means that you understand what you are going to do and how you will implement these activities to achieve the goals and the objectives of the proposals that you submitted. And I can provide all of you examples of profiles of the let me say, local or international organizations, and how to build up your profile firstly, because you would like to talk about yourself. So who are you? Who are you? We are as an organization, we are as a team, a group, and we have a profile, we have a principles, mission, vision, a title or name, a scope of work, experiences, the staff that we consist of. All of these issues have to be very clear, accurate, and built up well to the donors, in addition to the professionality that you used in writing your proposal, because all of these issues will be on the table of the donor as evaluation elements or tools, and as we will see in the coming slides. The need of your area people and with your governmental plans, in addition to the international goals. All of these issues should be considered in your proposal. The relevant of your work, the relevant of your proposed projects or intervention, how it's relevant to your scope of work as organizations or team. In addition to that, how for what let me say level the project relevant to your needs as people and as your population or let me say community. and the problems. In addition to that, the governmental rules and regulations, the plans, the strategic plans of your national governmental, which will be important to be matching or to be compliant with your interventions. So we are not going to be in combat or in fighting with your government by doing the donations or by funding your project. By giving you this shoring, this financial shoring, we are not going to be in conflict with anybody. So if you build up your proposal in fit of all of these people, you will gain a very, very high level of, let me say, agreement with your donors. In addition to the coming steps to write a good proposal, they need that. In addition to the, let me say, at the recent point, the international goals. You are responsible to read enough about the organizations that you are going to work with. It's a very important issue. You have to search about them. If you are going to work with UNDP or let me say CRS or Enable of the Belgium country, or DCA Danimarcan, or Norwegian and MBA, or so many hundreds of international organizations. If you are looking for working with them, you have to learn about them deeply. You have to dive deeply in their goals, objectives, in their mission in the countries globally, in their let me say vision, and what is the recent works or what are the works that they implemented in the world, to know how we can use the way to match their goals according to our needs, which is the, let me say, the magic link that we are going to build up between us. What is your goals and objectives, and what I have as needs, as problems in my country? If we find, let me say, the matching between these, we can write very strong proposal according to your vision and mission and principles and scope of work, and depending or relying on our needs in our countries, matching of the SDGs and the peace in our country, and how to make these snowball be bigger and bigger by the time by implementing projects in our country. This concept must be well articulated in the proposal. Funders want to know that the project reinforces the overall direction of an organization, and they may need to be convinced that the case for the project is compelling or compelling, let me say. You should collect background data on your organization and on the need to be addressed, so that your arguments are well documented. The program or the project here, I just added a checklist of the program information you require, the nature of the project and how it will be conducted, and this is the main body of your proposal, the timetable for the project or the intervention that you are looking for to implement in your area, and anticipated outcomes, and how best to evaluate the results. If your projects cannot be evaluated, you will not gain any funds from anywhere, because we will not go, or we are not going to fund something unclear for all of us how to be evaluated. Are you succeeded or not? Are you achieved your goals or not? Is the intervention solve your problems or not? Is the interventions that you have presented for all of us by your proposal solving your problems, matching your needs, and then will be considered as added value from all of us or not? So if it's not able to be evaluated, it will be very big problem for your proposal. Staffing and volunteers needs. How many experts you need, and already you involved in your proposal? What is their biographies, short or brief biographies, or their CVs? And you have to build up their CVs well. We submitted proposals all the time from our institute here in Gaza, and we gain so many projects every year. Just the recent years, the recent year, 2020, we gained 32 projects that we implemented in Palestine in cooperation with international organizations. We built up our proposals, and the very important added component of our proposals, the staff that we used, which experts, professionalized and qualified person or individual that we will be heard or involved in your work, because by this way we can be trusted our project will be implemented well, our intervention or our money as donors will be, let me say, used accurately, professionally, and precisely, and it will added for all of our, let me say, CVs as international organization that we implemented in the recent year a project in 1, 2, 3, 4 countries, and we found the results as 1, 2, 3, 4. The findings is 1, 2, 3, 4, and the enhancement of the life of the people become 1, 2, 3, 4. According to your staff, according to the volunteers that you involved in your project, which one and how many person or people will involved in your work, which is your, let me say, responsibility. And I can give you an example of a proposal that we built up in the recent period of time to make it very, let me say, clear and easy to be followed by your staffs. It's very good for all of you. I'll submit or I'll send to the organizers of this training program as samples of proposals that we submitted, and already we gained the funds by these proposals, and the CVs, how to build up your CVs. In this point, I have to add something very important. Some countries or some donors ask you to build up your CVs according to their specific formula. And this is very important for you to know if they have their own formats to be followed, or to be followed, or you are free to use the way that you have to use to explain for them the experiences of you as a profile of your team, and the experience of your staff members as CVs that you have to submit for them. Let me say, arranged well and built up or designed by attractive way. And you have to use the same 3 big pillars that I have started my session by them. The first one is the language of your CVs or profile, and the second one the content of your CVs and the content that you have used in your let me say, profile of your team, and the third one, the design of your CVs. Which one before which one? How we can add our experience systematically, clear, easy to be understood by everybody. Highlighted the important issues, ignoring of the let me say least important issues, not making papers but making, let me say, valuable additions that you have to use and to add it in your CVs. And the CVs also of your staff, the CVs of your members of your, let me say, team, or the profile of your organization will be as, let me say, the most important step in your proposal acceptance process. And the judgment of your proposal will relying by a high level of percentage on your staff members and their capacity. So you have to involve in your staff experts and relevant people in your relevant to your project that you have submitted your proposal for, and how to present, how to show them the details about your stuff. Expenses. You will not be able to pin down all the expenses associated with the project until the program details and timing have been worked out. Thus, the main financial data gathering tasks takes place after the narrative part of the master proposal has been written. However, at this stage, you do need to sketch out the broad outlines of the budget to be sure that the costs are in a reasonable proportion to the outcomes you anticipated. And I use a simple way to present the breakdown of the budget, and I can teach you or learn you about it. It's very easy according to your activities which presented in your action plan. You can use the action plan as I'll show you how we can build up our action plan, which will be translated, which will translate our, let me say, activities that we are proposed in our proposal. Activities need for, let me say, action plan, the schedule, the timetable that you will follow to implement or to achieve these activities or to conduct these activities. These activities and titles, subtitles, subtitles can be taken to use as financial by giving the cost of each activity, how we can and why, and this is the methodology, but how much does it cost will be as breakdown of your budget, which have to be very accurate, precise, and very clear for the donors. They want all the time to know where their money will go. So how much you are clear in your budget and how much you are accurate in your budget without any single mistake, without any cent by dollars, how much you will gain the, let me say, the approval or the agreement with the donors to be in cooperation and to building up the partnership in the coming period of time to implement the project in your country and to ignore the others, which is the best way that you have to think about all the time. How you can justify your work, gain their approval, gain their agreement, to ignore the others, because they don't have enough money to donate or to fund all the countries and all over the world. It's unlogic or impossible. If it appears that the cost will be prohibitive, even with a foundation grant, you should then scale back, minimize, decrease your plans or adjust them to remove the least cost-effective expenditures. And this is your responsibilities. And I have to add something very important here. Don't be confused at all. This will be built up according to the time and during the coming period of time. This is the first step you have to use to build up your work in the coming period, to develop your experience. Many of articles and documents in the internet talk about how to build up your proposal well, but according to your work in a practical way, you will develop your experience in this way. After 2 or 3 years with so many projects that we try to write for the donors to give you the funds, you will be very professional, and the proposals will be written by easy way with high level of quality according to your experiences and your staff experience, and using the best language that the donors are looking for. Components of the proposal: executive summary. If your project is very big, more than $500,000, $1 million, $2 million, or $3 million, so you have to use as the first step the executive summary of your proposal, because the activities that you are going to do is very big, and let me say you have so many hundreds of activities to be implemented during 2 or 3 or 4 years. So the executive summary will be very important, and you will ask to add for your proposal. If you gain the satisfaction and intention of the donors in the first step by the title of your proposal, and the second one or the second step by the executive summary, you will gain and you will obtain the funds if your proposal built up well. This is a logic, let me say, a log frame of your work. If the executive summary, the umbrella statement of your case and summary of the entire proposal built up well, you will gain the fund. It's an easy way. But if you built up already your proposal well, but if your executive summary is weak, away from their goals or objectives, not relevant for the local problems, your scope of work, the relevant goals and objectives of the international donors, or what you would like to work with, you will lose. You will lose this funds. Statement of need, it's justification. Why this project is necessary. You have to mention every single components, but important, to show them why this project is necessary locally, why this project is necessary regionally, and why this project is necessary internationally, globally. So this is your mission in this component of the proposal, how to reflect your needs locally, regionally, internationally, problems, challenges that you are looking for to solve, and looking for looking for funds to resolve it locally, regionally, internationally. This is your responsibility. The project description, which is the main part of your proposal. It's the, let me say, bone skeleton of your proposal, which is considered as the most important part of your proposal. What is the content of your proposal? This is one. This is the first one, and the most important one. The description of your project. Nuts and bolts. The details of your work, of how the project will be implemented and evaluated, which can be called all the time, or so many times, as the methodology. How you will implement these activities, how the project will be conducted or carried out or implemented clearly, using the very professional and, let me say, effective and efficient ways. This is your job. This is your job, and you can break down the activities one by one, titles, subtitles, subtitles, to make the photo or the figure, or let me say the picture, clear for the donors, to make them or to get them know or understand well what you are going to do. How much you are clear in this point, how much the donor become satisfied and, let me say, agree with you. And the third part, or the fourth part of your proposal, is the budget. As I'll talk about it in details, to make it very clear for you how to break down your budget by activities, and every activity, how to estimate or to propose the financial cost according to your local, let me say, economic status of your country, and matching the, let me say, the international organization needs according to their budget, to funds. You know how much that they can give. So our budget, according to their, let me say, the budget, or according to their fund or amount, in addition to the amount that they asked us to do, to give or to pay. Organization information, this is the fifth, as I said before, the fifth and a very important component of your, let me say, proposal, the history and governing structure of the non-profit or the organization that you build up, or the team that you representative, its primary activities, audiences, beneficiaries, people that that you are going to help, the community that you are living with, and the level of, let me say, works or scope of work that you responsible to work with. And finally, if your proposal is very big, that you ask to build up or to write a conclusion. But briefly, the executive summary is something different from the conclusions. The conclusions is summary of the proposal main points. But the executive summary, you will take a brief description of every component of your proposal. Justification of your problem, 2 lines. Methodology that you are going to use, 2-3 lines. And the budget, you can mention it briefly. If you don't refuse to gain or to match or to give the financial in the same proposal of the technical, which is very important problems. So many people fallen down in this problem. They put the financial in the same proposal of the technical, which make your proposal rejected directly. Because the donors judge, or let me say, if they ask it, but if they don't, you can take your time freely to mention the cost of your proposed activities in your technical proposals. But so many, let me say, international organizations ask people or ask organizations not to put the costs of your the proposal, financial proposal, in the same document of the technical proposal, because of the let me say judgment concerns and related to the policy that they use to evaluate the proposals. Executive summary. Be certain this first page of the proposal is the most important section of the entire document. It's the gateway of your proposal. The first step, the first first meeting, first impression. This is the first meeting of your proposal. What I'll see in your proposal as first, it's the executive summary. Be certain to include the problem, which is very important to be described well, a brief statement of the problem or need your agency has recognized and is prepared to address, 1 or 2 paragraphs, small or brief. Solution, okay, we have a problem and then we have the solution we are proposed. A short description of the project, including what will take place, what will be implemented, the intervention that we propose, as how many people will benefit from the program, which is very important issue to be covered in this point, and you have to keep your attention in this point. How many people will benefited by your intervention, which can be calculated by calculation. And this is your job in proposal. If I would like to ask you a question. I am going to give you a fund. The beneficiaries of this fund will be 5 persons, and I give Jack a fund, the same fund, the same amount. Let me say $1,000. With Jack, the beneficiaries will be 2,000. Which one will be preferable from my side to be funded? The people or the organization has a small amount of beneficiaries or the larger? It's logic. The donor is looking for the people, how much people will be added to be beneficiaries. How much or how many people, let me say, will be added to these goals to be achieved. This is very important issue. And you, in many times, you will benefit many people, but you cannot, or you are not, let me say, success. You are not success to reflect these numbers in your proposal, which is a weakness point in your proposal. But other people accurately, professionally can explain for you how many people will gain the benefits of your project by calculation. 2,000 by Facebook, 300 people will be visited the homes, and the IEC material will be used as the advertisements will be sent by emails for 100,000 people during 6 months, and the families that we will, they will explain for you how many people will be beneficiaries. And this is your, let me say, job to explain, to describe how much or how many, let me say, people will be included in this solution. Funding requirements.
Mr. Ahmed?
Yes?
Mr. Ahmed, sorry, can you please conclude in 5 minutes, because we'll need to give opportunity for a Q&A, 5 minutes before we conclude the session.
Okay, but I have so many, let me say, the points are not covered because of the time, and as I said for you yesterday, the issue is very big, need for many time. Okay, I'll go speedily.
Yeah, because
okay.
I think for the UNESCO team, they need to conclude at 6 p.m. their time, so it's 1 p.m. our time.
Okay.
So that's the limitation.
Okay. Don't be worried. The statement of need, justification of your problems, you have to mention it clearly. Consider for 6 points, like decide which facts or statistics best support the project. Give the reader hope. You are not going to make them impossible to solve your problems, but just you have to mention in your proposal that the problem can be solved by this way, by 1, 2, 3, 4. And the third, decide if you want to put your project forward as a model, so you have to use the best one. Determine whether it is reasonable to portray the need as acute, and decide whether you can demonstrate that your program addresses the need differently or better than other projects that preceded it. And the sixth one, avoid circular, let me say, reasoning by adding of these aspects. The project description is very important in your proposal. Objectives, methods, staffing, as I said, evaluation, ways that you can use after finishing or accomplished your project, how we can evaluate your interventions, and the sustainability, how you can going to preserve the sustainability of your intervention. The objectives I have added in this presentation, the smarter concept that you have used all the time to build up our projects and our goals or objectives. It should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound or time-limited or dependent, and evaluated and re-evaluated. So many people have their problems in the goals and the objectives building up. They don't mention or we cannot going to know, let me say, how the specificity of your projects or your objectives, and how we can measure if you achieved or not, and your work or your project or your proposal are not achievable anymore because of your problems in your area, let me say. The relevance, as I said, and the time, there is no schedule, and I have let me say, illustrated these items here in details, how to build up your goals and objectives clearly. In addition to that, the types of your proposals, as I mentioned here in this slide, can be behavioral, performance, process, products, and we can discuss it in details if we have enough of time. The methods that can be used, and the questions that you have to ask yourself and to be answered during your proposal, because the donor you will ask, the donors will looking for the answers of these questions to judge or to evaluate your proposals and to select or to ignore your proposals. How many or how much you are clear in your proposals, how much the donors can evaluate well, can conclude that your proposal is the most suitable, the most, let me say, successful proposal that can be funded or donated. And sustainability, how you preserve or keep the sustainability in your intervention, you have to mention in your proposals. And if I let me say, send you the examples of proposals, you will see the sustainability aspects that can be added in your proposal, to keep in mind for everybody that the projects will not end in the end of the activities, but the project goals, objectives, vision, and let me say the changing that we did will be promoted and will be continue or sustain in the coming period of time. The budget is very important issues, and I have added as example here small example for all of you to be mentioned or to be, let me say, understood. Activities we can, but if your project is very big, so the budget become in more than 6 or 7 pages or 8 pages, every activity can be added by cost, and the total budget of the project can be added, which became from, as I said, from the action plan that we built up in our proposal. You have to mention in your proposal what is the time of your activities to be implemented, the duration of the activity that be used, and the donors will know exactly and accurately in any time which one of these activities will be implemented and when it will be finished or finalized. This action plan could be very large according to the size of your project that you, let me say, proposed. The budget is very important according to the currency that they used, with details, breakdown of your budget according to the cost of these issues or the items in your country should be reflect the activities well, and you can add the overhead if you want. We can, according to the policies and requirements of your organization that you are looking for to working with. As I added, supported issues should be taken into consideration. You can read it later on, the budget narrative, the description, and the organization's details you have to add in your profile. How to build up your profile well, I can give you our profile to see every components that we used, how to market your profile, how to market your organization, and how to gain the satisfaction and trust and the confidence with the international organizations. Your profile is very important issue to be built up well, because how we can talk with people without our CVs. The profile is your CV as organization or team, so you have to add code of conduct, environmental code of conduct, a humanitarian code of conduct, how you work with children, with women, with vulnerable people, and the protection mainstreaming. You have to follow up in your work, which is very important as SDGs component. Many of issues, let me say, important to be added in your proposal to make it competitive for the others, and this is what I would like to say, and I have many of items to be described, but there is no enough time. I think it's very important to highlight, or it can be used as a flash for you. You can take the time to build up your capacity to develop your performance in this issue, because this is important gateway for your interventions in your country or your area. Without writing well, or let me say successful proposals, you cannot gain the funds to implement the goals and the objectives that they said in the SDGs in the first sessions and in the coming sessions. And sorry if I take a lot of time. Thank you so much for your joining us.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Ahmed, for the interesting sharing. So I think now we can open the floors for Q&A if there is any question. So either you can write in the chat box or you raise your hand, then we'll give you the chance to talk. So is there any question? Okay.
As I said, Dr. Wissam, I can share with you as examples for the working of the team or the ambassadors in the coming period of time. I can provide them with, let me say, important tools to facilitate their work in the coming period.
I think from our side, we apologize that we're running out of time, but it will be very good to, if you agree, Dr. Ahmed, to also share your presentation.
You are welcome.
Which is very, very detailed with a lot of very, very important information, as well as any additional documents that you would like to share. But what we would do, of course, is to put the recording of this session together with all the presentation materials onto a website, and then we will inform all participants about the availability of these.
It's okay.
Website.
It's okay. You are welcome. You are welcome. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
There was a Q&A for.
Somebody was asking about the material.
Okay.
So is there any other question from the audience?
Okay, and also the presentation should be okay. We will provide it for everybody.
Okay, so there is one question. What COVID protocols can be added to make projects feasible nowadays?
Okay. It's very important component asked many times from the donors, and we built up with Oxfam GB a protocol for let me say implementing projects in your country, taking into account the COVID-19 restrictions, depending on the health status in your country and the limitation of movement, let me say that. So if your country put some restrictions on movement of the people, so you have to build up your work, you have to build up your proposal according to the local status context, health context, to make your project feasible and could be implemented, because many of problems can be faced by the local governments because of the health status and relevant to the COVID-19. If you mention that in your proposal according to the local status, it will be very important, very, let me say, added value for the proposals. It means that you are very, let me say, relevant to your local context and understand what happened in your ground. So it's very important. We built up as NIED, National Institute for Environment and Development, a protocol for solid waste management in COVID-19 context, and the families working with, let me say, with their environmental surrounding area in the level of, let me say, limitation of movement and the implementation of projects. So I can share all of these protocols with you to see how you can implement, how you can involve or included the COVID-19 concerns in your project's implementation according to your local contexts and the international donors' prosperities or point of views.
So there is another question. What are the trust areas we have to concentrate on the seed proposal writing, if possible, narrate with some examples? So I think I can answer that question. So the trust areas should be within the context of the capacity building program, which is SDG and Peace, biodiversity and peace, water and peace, and climate change and peace. I'm not sure, Dr. T, if you want to add something here, or my answer is enough.
Yes, thank you. There will also be several other sub-themes, heritage and peace, for example, and additional sub-themes that is still being discussed with the partners that will be included, looking at how to build peace in this context, whether we're leveraging heritage, creativity, or ecological concerns. It requires a way of thinking that is more creative, maybe. We might need to think about how, what type of creative pathways we can find for a sustainable future.
I can add something for the ambassadors in the coming period of time and the teams that they were going to build up in their countries to implement the interventions and to implement the projects relevant to the peace and SDGs. As everybody know, the peace mean justice and equality in resources consumption and responsibilities and let me say the rules of everybody or every organization should be played well. The teams has the responsibility to screen what they have in their country as donors and put all of them on the table to study their goals and objectives and which one fit or complement with your goals and objectives to be put in the work as a plan of your intervention in the coming period. And then you can build up your proposal, as I said, according to the local researches and studies to solve the problems relevant to the peace or the, let me say, unequal distribution of the resources which make the people unglad or living in a peace situation. Then according to the results of these researches or your, let me say, surveys or studies can build up your proposals which will be suitable to be submitted for the donors to give or to obtain the funds in your country.
I would like to add that it will be important to understand peace itself. What is peace? Understanding of the concept of peace and peace studies, the pathways in this area. We are currently also discussing with some Nanjing partners to organize additional capacity building trainings on peace building and peace studies, or the concept of peace, which we will be announcing hopefully after the Nanjing Peace Forum in October. But just keep an eye out for that as well, because I think that's going to be something that will be interesting to know, to understand before moving forward.
Exactly.
So I think here we can take the last question, which is, when seeking for a fund, is it necessary to partner with the donor organization first before writing a proposal?
Okay. It's not important at the beginning. Just the international organizations declared or announced to call of proposals, so you can be the first one to work with them, but just your proposal will be the link with them. If you implement in the first time your project well and the intervention was very important, very successful, it will facilitate your work with them in the next time. This is like, let me say, as experience and partnership and friendship in many times. So in the first time, you have to put your pressure to shed the light on your work and to concentrate more and more because it's the first time. But the following of your first time, the second time become easier because they know who are you, know your profile, they saw your work and the team and the intervention, and it will become easier. The partnership is not important, but if you can do it, it's very important, it's very successful. But you are not asked to build up your partnership with the international organization before working with them according to the announcement or declaration of call of proposals matching of their goals and objectives in the same way or in parallel to your work scope of work and needs or gaps or challenges in your country.
Okay, so I think we reach to the end of this session. So thank you so much. And I think I'll give back the floor to Dr. T to conclude the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Wessam. I would like to thank, of course, both Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Wessam for this marathon session. 3 hours is a very, very intense session and without necessarily a break. I would also actually like to thank all the participants of this session. We started out with about, at the peak of the 3 hours was about 110, 113 attendees in total. And we still have about 97 right now, which is very rare. When we think about a 3-hour training course, people tend to drop off. But this shows that the topic is of interest and is of value. And I would like to thank the both of you again for all your efforts that you've put in, and to everyone. Please keep your eye out for the other training sessions that are coming, capacity building training sessions. One will be next week, Thursday, and another one will be on the, two more will be on the 28th of October. We will be releasing information about this soon. We're working on putting together the information, and please keep an eye out on the website and on email. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining the session, and it's been a valuable, very valuable contribution to the Nanjing Peace Forum. Thank you, and good evening, good afternoon, or good morning.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for all of you. Goodbye.
Goodbye.